I still remember the exact moment I stepped out of the airport after 10 long years.
The air felt different. Thicker. Heavier.
As if the world had aged without asking for my permission. I had left this country a younger man, ambitious, hopeful, blinded by the idea of building a better future for my family. I believed that if I worked hard abroad, sacrificed enough time and comfort, everything would eventually fall into place. But life has its own way of teaching lessons. I came home expecting smiles.
Warm hugs.
Maybe a few tears. After all, 10 years is a long time. But what waited for me was nothing close to what I imagined. My daughter Emily opened the door of my old house, the house I built with my own hands.
The house I paid for.
The house I left behind so my family could live comfortably. But she wasn't dressed like a young woman welcoming her father home. She wore an old uniform.
A faded apron.
Hands dry from washing, eyes tired from work. And when she saw me, she didn't run into my arms. She froze, like a stranger standing at the wrong door. I looked past her into the house. Nothing looked familiar anymore. The walls were repainted. The furniture was replaced. And behind her voice, there was a tremble. "Dad," she whispered. Not with joy, but with fear. Within minutes, I learned the truth that shook the ground beneath my feet. My daughter wasn't living here as the owner's child. She was living here as a maid. In her own home. Working for the man who took everything from me, my brother Mark. That was the moment something inside me went still. Not angry. Not broken. Just still. I had returned for a reunion. But fate had prepared a lesson. A quiet revenge. A slow, patient justice, the kind that doesn't burn loudly, but rises silently like dawn. And I knew right there that my story wasn't ending. It was beginning. Before I tell you how everything unfolded, you need to know the kind of man I used to be, and the kind of man my brother was. Growing up, Mark and I were different in every way. He was social, clever, always smiling in front of people. The kind of man everyone trusted instantly. The kind of man who could lie with ease because his charm made honesty optional. I, on the other hand, was quieter. I didn't speak unless I meant what I said. I believed in keeping my promises. I believed family came first. My wife passed away when Emily was just 8. For a long time, grief became a shadow in our home. Emily clung to me, and I did everything I could to give her a childhood she wouldn't regret later. By the time she turned 13, I made the hardest decision of my life, to leave the country and work abroad for a few years. Just enough to secure her future. Just enough to pay off the mortgage, save for her education, and give her the life her mother once dreamed of. But those few years slowly turned into 10. 10 years of double shifts. 10 years of sleeping in shared rooms. 10 years of sending money home. 10 years of believing everything was being taken care of by the only person I trusted, my brother Mark. He told me he'd watch over the house. Pay the bills. Keep the place safe until I returned. Every call he reassured me. Every message sounded warm. Every picture he sent of my daughter made it seem like she was growing up fine. But pictures lie. Words lie. People lie. The truth hit me like cold stone the moment I stepped into my own living room. The pictures on the wall were of his family, not mine. His kids' toys were scattered on the carpet. His wife's coats hung by the door. Everything screamed their presence. My daughter didn't even have a room anymore. She slept in the basement, a storage space next to cleaning supplies. When I looked at her, my heart cracked at the edges. She was 18 now. Tall but thin. Beautiful but worn out. Brave but too quiet. "Emily," I asked softly that day, why are you working here?" Her eyes didn't meet mine. "Uncle said, we needed to repay debts." "What debts?" She swallowed hard. "He said you left us with bills, Dad. He said this was the only way to stay in the house." I felt something inside me shift, not anger but clarity. A cold,
Precise clarity.
Mark had taken everything I owned.
My house.
My savings. My daughter's childhood. And he had done it quietly, confidently, assuming I would never return.
But here I was.
And I had no intention of fighting him with shouts or fists.
No.
Some lessons require silence. Some justice comes with patience. And some revenge is best served calmly, like a man teaching life instead of seeking war. I didn't confront Mark on the first day.
Or the second. Or the third.
I simply observed. It's amazing how much truth you can gather when you let people believe you're weak. Mark wasn't surprised to see me. In fact, he greeted me with that same old confident smile, the smile that used to fool everyone but now only revealed the greed behind it. "Brother," he said loudly, as if the world were his audience. "You should have told us you were coming. We've been taking care of your house all these years."
Taking care?
I looked at Emily washing dishes in the kitchen. Yes. He had taken care of himself. He walked around like a king. His wife, Linda, acted as if the house belonged to her by birthright. She gave orders, pointed fingers, criticized everything my daughter did, as if Emily wasn't family but hired help. It was hard to watch. Harder to remain silent. But silence was my strength now. Silence was how I would win. During dinner on the fourth night, when Emily served food quietly, Linda complained about the seasoning. Mark laughed. Their children pushed away plates they didn't like. But what stayed with me was the moment Emily dropped a fork, not loudly, just lightly, and Linda snapped. "You should be more careful, girl. You're not here to make a mess." Girl. Not Emily. Not niece. Not family. Girl. My fists tightened under the table. But I didn't react. Because I had already begun planning. Over the next few days, I walked through the house slowly, noticing every detail. Every changed lock. Every missing document. Every drawer that used to hold my papers but now held theirs. Emily whispered things to me in fragments, afraid of being overheard. "Uncle said you gave him permission to use your bank account. Uncle said you left the house under his name. Uncle said you abandoned us." Abandoned. That was the knife he used on her. Then came the moment that triggered the turning point. On the seventh day, I heard crying from the basement. Emily's voice, soft, trying to stay quiet. I walked down slowly and found her sitting beside a small metal shelf. Her hands were shaking. She held a small box, a shoebox filled with letters. "My letters. I wrote to you every month, Dad," she whispered, tears falling freely. "I thought you forgot me. But you wrote back. All these years. You wrote back. I never saw a single one." I opened the box. Dozens of envelopes. Every letter I had sent from abroad. Every birthday message. Every note telling her I loved her. All hidden. All stolen. That was when the last piece of the puzzle fell into place. Mark hadn't just taken my house. He had taken my daughter's heart and filled it with lies. Quietly. I sat down beside her. "Emily," I said, my voice steady, "I'm here now. And I'm not going anywhere." That night, while the house was silent, I made my decision. Not to fight him. Not to throw him out. Not to ruin him publicly. But to use the truth, the very thing he had hidden for 10 long years, and let it rise on its own. Mark had built his life on lies. And lies, when touched by patience, collapse under their own weight. The next morning, I woke up early, before sunrise. I brewed coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and waited for Mark. I wasn't there for confrontation. I was there for observation. He stumbled in, rubbing his eyes. "You're up early." "I wanted to talk," I said calmly. "Sure," he replied with a stretch. "Anything you need." He believed he still had control. He believed I had returned broken and dependent. That confidence would become his downfall. I started small. "I was thinking about the house," I said. I want to understand how things were managed.
Mark didn't flinch. Don't worry about it.
I handled everything. I even paid off some debts for you.
Oh.
I sipped my coffee. And the ownership papers? Where are they? He hesitated only for a moment, but it was enough.
Safe, he said.
I keep all documents safe.
You know me.
Yes. I knew him better than he realized. Over the next 2 weeks, I continued my quiet study of the situation, while pretending to accept everything he said. But behind the scenes, I took steps he didn't expect. I went to the county records office. Quietly.
Alone.
I pulled every document under my name. Property, taxes, transfers, signatures. Within an hour, I confirmed what I suspected. The house had never been legally transferred. The bank account was still mine. All utilities still listed me as the primary owner. Every lie he told was built on the assumption that I would never check. When the woman at the counter handed me the folder, she asked, "Would you like certified copies?" "Yes," I said with a faint smile. "I think it's time." That afternoon, I returned home and continued acting the part of the silent, defeated older brother. Mark kept giving orders. His wife kept assigning chores to Emily. Their kids kept treating her like a servant. But everything was different now.
Not for them. For me.
I held the truth now, and the truth is the most powerful weapon when wielded with patience. Then came the day I initiated the final step. I invited Mark and his family to the dining table. I asked Emily to sit with us, something Linda clearly disliked. "What's going on?" Mark asked casually. "I just want to talk as a family," I replied calmly. He smiled, relaxed. He still believed I was harmless. I placed a folder on the table.
A plain folder. No emotion. Just paper.
"Mark," I said softly, "I visited the records office." His smile froze, just a little. And I learned that the house is still under my name.
Everything. Every corner. Every wall. Silence.
Linda shifted uncomfortably. I continued in the same calm tone. "I also found my bank records. All the withdrawals you made. Every signature you forged." His face paled. Emily looked at me with wide eyes. But I wasn't angry. My voice remained steady. "Mark, I'm not here to fight. I'm not here to humiliate you. I simply came home. And home should be respected."
He swallowed hard.
"Listen, I can explain." "You don't need to explain anything," I said gently. "You just need to pack."
Pack.
Linda almost shouted. "Yes. Pack. Because you will be leaving the house today."
Mark's lips trembled.
"You can't throw us out like this. The kids." "I am not throwing you out," I corrected him. "I am simply reclaiming what is already mine." I slid a second document across the table. "This gives you a full week to find a place."
"I'm being fair."
"More fair than you were to my daughter." His eyes darted to Emily.
She looked away.
"And Mark," I added quietly, "do not mistake my calmness for weakness. You took advantage of my absence. Not my silence." He knew I had everything I needed, legally, morally, emotionally.
He had lost.
But my revenge wasn't in making him leave. My revenge was in doing it without hate.
Without noise.
Without losing myself.
Silent. Strong. Complete.
Mark and his family moved out within a week. The house felt different the moment they left. Lighter, clearer, like a wound beginning to heal. Emily stood in the doorway the day they drove away. She didn't say anything, but when she looked up at me, her eyes were full of something I had missed for years.
Trust.
I put my hand on her shoulder. "This is your home again." For the first time in a long time, she smiled softly. Rebuilding our life wasn't easy. It required patience. It required slow healing. Emily kept apologizing, blaming herself for believing the lies. But I told her the same thing every time.
You were a child.
You trusted the adults around you. That's not your fault. We repainted the rooms together. Bought second-hand furniture.
Fixed broken shelves.
Cooked meals in silence, sometimes talking, sometimes just sitting together. The house slowly became a home again. One day, as we were sorting old boxes, Emily held a picture of her mother and whispered, "Mom would have been proud of you." I looked at the picture too, her gentle smile, the softness in her eyes. "I hope so," I said quietly. She turned to me. "Dad." "Yes." "Why didn't you take revenge? The way people do in stories. Why didn't you ruin Uncle? Why didn't you call the police?" I looked at her for a moment, then answered with the truth. Because revenge isn't about destroying people. It's about restoring what was stolen from you, without losing who you are. She nodded slowly, processing every word. "Besides," I added with a small smile, "men like your uncle ruin themselves when the truth comes out." I didn't need to push him off a cliff. I just had to step out of the way. A few months later, I heard through neighbors that Mark and his wife were struggling. They moved from house to house, unable to settle.
People stopped trusting him.
The lies he once used so confidently now worked against him. Not because I exposed him publicly, but because the truth eventually speaks for itself. And I slept peacefully every night, knowing I had reclaimed my life without bitterness. A year later, Emily started college. She walked across the campus, head high, shoulders straight. No longer the quiet girl living in a basement. No longer the child who believed she had been abandoned.
She was strong, brave, resilient.
One evening, she sat with me on the porch. The sky was orange, the air warm. "Dad," she said softly, "I want to thank you."
For what? For coming back. For staying calm.
For choosing peace over anger. I think if you had reacted differently, I would have carried that darkness with me. I nodded slowly. Life gives us choices.
Some choices build us. Some break us.
I wanted you to learn that strength doesn't always shout. She leaned her head on my shoulder. I understand now. We sat there quietly, watching the sun go down. And as I looked at the horizon, I realized something important. I had lost 10 years abroad. 10 years believing lies. 10 years of distance from my daughter. But I had gained something too, the chance to teach her one of life's greatest lessons. Revenge doesn't have to be loud. Justice doesn't have to be cruel. Peace doesn't have to be weak. Sometimes, silence is the best revenge.